So in this objective, let's talk a little bit about some of the recommendations for our food. So the primary body who recommends foods to us as Americans, of course, is the United States Department of Agriculture. The nutritional dietary guidelines have been recommended for the last, roughly 40 or so years. And then, of course, you have these standards that have shifted over time. For example, cholesterol. Cholesterol is a great example. You may be concerned about it, or maybe not you personally, but maybe you have a parent, grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, somebody in your family maybe has high cholesterol. Cholesterol is something it's actually very fascinating, quite frankly, because now in the most recent USDA guidelines, cholesterol has actually been taken out of the guideline. What the scientific community is saying to all of us is that cholesterol no longer really has a major impact on any health risk, health challenge, chronic disease, etc. in the diet. I find that fascinating for a number of reasons. We won't get into that now, but basically, your body will produce cholesterol anyway, is essentially what the scientists are saying, and they don't feel like the latest findings in the broader literature suggest that cholesterol in the diet has any real meaningful impact on cardiovascular disease. But nonetheless, USDA has very specific recommendations where now they've actually kind of shifted where they're looking at your plate. So many years before, you were looking at more specific percentages of, say, carbohydrate, protein, and fat in the diet. Now they're looking at things more from like a portion or a size standard, and then making sure that you're getting enough servings of foods, which actually I find to be much more practical. So for example, we're standing here next to these really beautiful melons, different types of melons, some pineapple, bananas here, your Valencia oranges, all different types of really good fruits. What I like about what USDA is doing now is that they're saying, eat a lot of these, eat a lot of fresh, eat a lot of raw, try to get as much food as you can that's uncooked. And actually, fascinating and interestingly enough, they're actually even cutting back a little bit on their recommendations for animal foods, for different types of meats, for different types of dairy, although those recommendations have not gone away as much as, say, someone like me eating a plant-based diet would really prefer. But nonetheless, I am encouraged that USDA is now putting more of an emphasis on eating these kinds of foods, as so much of an emphasis before on animal foods. Also, they've definitely done a much better job of looking into processed foods, of looking into sugary, sweetened foods, cutting back on those kinds of foods. And then also saying, eat your whole grains. If you want to eat your grains, that's great, but eat a whole grain. Don't eat white rice, don't eat white bread, or if you eat any of that, try to limit it. So shift to a whole wheat or an amaranth or a quinoa, some kind of a grain that's very whole in nature. And again, it's very important to make a consideration for organic here as well, because we've done so much conventional modification to our food. We have genetic modification, we have pesticides, we have herbicides. All these things are now playing really an unknown role. We don't really know the consequences of all this genetic or chemical introduction that we put into the food supply. So that's why it's a very good opportunity to buy organic, where you can hopefully avoid a lot of that stuff. Now let's compare USDA a little bit to the Harvard food plate. Again, I like actually where the folks at Harvard are going with this, because they are emphasizing a much more plant-based approach. They are saying, cut back on the dairy, cut back on the animal tissue, because the reality is we now have literally thousands of studies in the literature suggesting that eating too much animal food can be very problematic for chronic disease risk. And we'll talk about that more in another objective for this module. But nonetheless, I really like the direction that the Harvard folks are going, because they are emphasizing much more of these foods, like your fresh fruits and vegetables. So the bottom line, in my opinion, based on the scientific literature, is it doesn't matter how much you believe in one particular organization's recommendations or the other. The bottom line with the science is that eating as much of your daily diet from sources of fruits and vegetables, and some nuts and seeds, and some whole grains is really your best strategy, again, to talk about an overall approach to being healthy and being well.